What is up with you and Jimmy Kimmel? Because during the Academy Awards you posted, has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? Less than an average person trying too hard. And he then read that on the air and then took a crack at you.
I was at my niece and nephew's music recital when I got this video. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, Donald Trump has said I'm not talented so many times. Eric is starting to get jealous.
What do you call a president who can't take a joke? Donald Trump, of course. The so-called champion of free speech was so offended by Jimmy Kimmel's hilarious monologues that he attempted to have Disney hypocrisy censor him. Kimmel didn't hold back when it came to roasting the president. He unleashed a smorgasbord of satirical nicknames that had Trump's spray tan turning 50 shades of orange. President Karen was a fan favorite, depicting a whiny, entitled commander-in-chief who demanded to speak with democracy's manager. And let's not forget Mar-a-Lardo, a zinger who took aim at both Trump's waistline and his valuable Palm Beach palace. Kimmel's wit was as sharp as a Secret Service sniper scope, but it was the joke that truly made Trump laugh. This scathing moniker, Orange Julius Caesar, not only made fun of the Express's dubious complexion, but also suggested that he had dictatorial delusions of grandeur. Jimmy Kimmel's comedic arsenal was full of jabs such as Dumbass Emperor, Pumpkin the Corn Humper, and Coup de Cress, each of which targeted a different aspect of Trump's fragile ego. For someone who enjoyed hurling insults, the Donald couldn't take a joke, but why did Kimmel's jabs hit him squarely in the bone spurs? For someone who had painstakingly cultivated an image of strength and bravado, Kimmel must have felt like a kick in the MAGA hat. Trump's skin was thinner than his hairline. Trump had no problem mocking war here, disabled reporters, and even his own pals, but when the tables turned, he cried foul faster than you could say, and the hypocrisy was so thick you could spread it on a Trump steak. Kimmel called Trump out for being a fragile little snowflake and a blobby hard blowlala hitting the nail on its tiny orange head. The guy who claimed to be a champion of free speech tried to silence a comedian simply for bruising his overinflated ego. Turns out Trump's version of free speech came with a huge asterisk. Sad. Trump was so outraged by the jokes that he summoned his lays to do his bidding like angry flying monkeys dispatched by the Wicked Witch. White House staffers frantically dialed up the head honchos at Disney. Can you imagine those conversations? Hello Disney, the president demands that you muzzle that dastardly jokester. Jimmy Kimmel, how dare he mock our supreme leader with his clever nicknames and satirical jabs. At least 2 calls were placed because apparently one angry rant wasn't enough to convey the depths of Trump's comedic butthurt. The White House minions were on a mission to censor Kimmel to shut down his First Amendment rights faster than Trump could tweet fake news, but here's the kicker. Disney essentially told Trump to take a hike. They weren't about to bow down to the whims of a thin-skinned president who couldn't handle a few jokes at his expense. It's like Trump expected Mickey Mouse to march into Jimmy's office and hand him a cease and desist letter. Not going to happen. Donny Boy Kimmel, of course, had a field day with this revelation. He gleefully referred to Trump as President Karen, painting a hilarious image of a petulant man-child demanding to speak to the manager because his feelings were hurt. Jimmy wondered aloud which specific joke had gotten under Trump's famously thin skin. Was it the Emperor Palpatine comparison, the Mar-a-Lardo quip, or perhaps the zinger about pumpkin and corn? Humper, the possibilities are endless when you're dealing with a human temper tantrum like Donald J. Trump. The audacity of Trump's attempt to silence a comedian is almost as laughable as his orange spray tan. This is a man who built his brand on mocking others, from disabled reporters to war heroes to his own former allies, yet he couldn't handle a few punchlines from a late-night host. The hypocrisy is thicker than Trump's comb-over. But the irony gets even richer when you consider Trump's past proclamations about being a champion of free speech. He's gone on record saying we will always protect free speech, and I'm one who really likes it. Apparently that commitment to the First Amendment only applies when the speech in question is singing his prayers. When it comes to jokes at his expense, suddenly censorship seems like a swell idea to the former president. Kimmel wasted no time pointing out the glaring double standard. He knew full well that if the tables were turned and a comedian was facing censorship from a Democratic president, Fox News would be screaming bloody murder about the assault on free speech, but with Trump at the helm, they were suspiciously silent. It's almost as if their outrage is selective depending on which side of the political aisle is being mocked, but Kimmel refused to be cowed by Trump's censorship crusade. In fact, one could argue that the attempt to silence him only made his comedic voice louder and more pointed. After all, there's nothing quite like the threat of censorship to light a fire under a comedian's act. Trump may have thought he could bully Kimmel into submission, but he clearly underestimated the power of satire in the face of authoritarianism as the dust settled on this bizarre battle between the leader of the free world and a late-night funnyman. one thing became crystal clear. Jimmy Kimmel had gotten under Trump's skin in a way that few others had managed. With each joke and jab, he had exposed the insecurities and hypocrisies of a president who fancied himself untouchable, and in doing so he had become an unlikely hero in the fight against Trumpian tyranny. One punchline. At a time while Jimmy Kimmel wasn't about to take this censorship attempt lying down, he went on the air guns blazing, calling out Trump's hypocrisy. With his trademark wit, Kimmel humorously referred to Trump as President Karen, who demanded to speak to his manager, illustrating the absurdity of the whole situation. He joked about Trump's thin skin, dubbing him a fragile little snowflake and a blow-love combination of blow hard and snowflake that perfectly captured Trump's oversensitive nature. But Kimmel wasn't done there. He highlighted the irony of Trump actions, pointing out that the guy who typically pays people to stop talking about him, like the $130,000 he allegedly shelled out to Stormy Daniels, now wanted Kimmel to shut up for free talk about a double standard. Kimmel even listed off a bunch of the hilarious nicknames he's used for Trump over the years, from T-Soprano to the Corn Humper to George Washington. Maybe it's no wonder Trump got his pants in a twist. But the real kicker, Trump, the self-proclaimed defender of free speech, was trying to silence a comedian for making jokes. The hypocrisy was off the charts. Kimmel mocked Trump's speeches about protecting free speech, exposing the glaring contradiction between his words and his actions. It was bizarre that a man who notoriously insults everyone from disabled journalists to veterans to his own friends and family couldn't handle a few jokes at his expense. Kimmel even compared his situation to other public figures he's mocked, like O.J. Simpson. Despite making fun of O.J. 1,000 times, Kimmel humorously noted he hasn't tried to kill me once, but apparently a few jokes were enough to send Trump on a censorship rampage. Kimmel underscored the gravity of the situation, calling it a blatant abuse of power and questioning whether Fox News, known for its free speech advocacy, would have his back against Trump's bullying. In true Kimmel fashion, he sarcastically apologized for missing a congressional hearing on the weaponization of the federal government, suggesting he could testify about Trump's attempt to muzzle him. And in a final jab, Kimmel invited Trump to come on the show and air his grievances in person, even offering him an arcade claw machine to say whatever was on his mind. Somehow I doubt Trump put him up on that offer. However, this was insignificant in comparison to the roast he performed on Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger asserts that the claims that Donald Trump made about his weight, that he weighs 215 pounds, are true, and that there is no evidence of climate change. Trump was publicly chastised for making such claims. Kimmel Trump no holds barred is a never-ending one. Trump called Kimmel the worst Oscars host ever. Kimmel clapped back on his show, mocking Trump's less-than-average person insult. But the real question is, who's the bigger loser in this viral roast battle? Trump, who can't take a joke, or Kimmel, who got under Trump's skin so easily? He even advised Trump to run 3 times a day to stay in shape, but Trumpy has only time to eat McDonald's and fart in court. I must say sorry, Melania. I feel for you, but Kimmel Trump no holds barred. The conflict between Donald Trump and Jimmy Kimmel escalated during the Oscars as the former president launched a torrent of insults at the late-night host. Trump never shied away from using Twitter to vent his disdain for Kimmel's hosting skills. In a scathing post, Trump wrote, "Has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? Less than an average person trying too hard to talk about a low blow." But Trump didn't stop there. Rather, he had to really drive home in an interview with his pals at Fox News. Trump continued, "I guess his ratings are terrible. He's not a talented guy. I hear he hits me all the time, so I figured I'd hit him because I thought he was a lousy host. Look, it's like a schoolyard brawl, but with 2 grown men and a lot more Twitter followers." Kimmel, not one to back down from a fight, especially one with the former leader of the free world, fired back on his show. He read Trump's social media post on air, mocking the ex-president's critique in a hilarious retort. Kimmel quipped, "Donald Trump has said I'm not talented. So many times Erica is starting to get jealous." It looks like Kimmel's got jokes too. The late-night host didn't stop there. He took aim at Trump's social media, a platform of choice, truth, and sarcastically pointed out how the Donald tried to spin the situation into a positive despite being the butt of the he joke. Kimmel, in his signature style, mocked Trump's claim that everyone was begging him not to read the post on air, saying now the big story is that they all begged him not to do it. Don't do it. They probably said stupidly. You know, he had to act in a short period of time, like minutes, right? He had minutes because he's on air. It's like watching a tennis match, but with insults instead of balls. But Kimmel wasn't about to take Trump's jabs lying down. Oh no, he went on the offensive, using his rapier wit to skewer the former president's laughable legal defenses. Kimmel, the master of satire, had a field day with Trump's court romantics ridiculing his attempts to downplay the severity of his alleged crimes in one particularly scathing monologue. Kimmel quipped Trump's defense basically seems to add up to even if I did commit these crimes, they're not really crimes. It was as if Trump believed he could rob a bank and then argue that taking money from a bank is something millions do every day. The absurdity was not lost on Kimmel or his audience, but Kimmel didn't stop there. He took aim at Trump's personal life too, mocking his infamous affair with adult film star Stormy Daniels. Kimmel suggested that getting Trump to admit to the affair would be a piece of cake. Just question his attractiveness and wealth and watch the man crumble. It was a low blow, but hey, all's fair in love and late-night comedy. Perhaps the most hilarious moment came when Kimmel challenged Trump to a cognitive or IQ test. Can you imagine two grown men, one a late-night host and the other a former leader of the free world, going head-to-head in a battle of wits? Kimmel even offered to sit down for a long game of Scrabble to determine who had the bigger brain. The mental image alone was enough to send the audience into fits of laughter through it all. Kimmel's sharp commentary and biting humor proved to be the perfect foil to Trump's bluster and bravado. He took every opportunity to poke fun at the former president's legal woes and personal failings, leaving no stone unturned in his quest for comedic gold. But the fart heard around the world was still yet to come. Just when you thought the Insano meter had topped out, Trump added farting to his list of atrocities. Of course, we don't know for sure that Trump was the one ripping ass in court, so it wouldn't be right for me to state that he was. I cannot in good conscience report that the former president was pumping gas like a bar. Sto Texico, but hey, I'm just asking questions here. The incident trended on Twitter faster than a White House staffer running for the exits with hashtags like odor in the court and Trump stinks bringing the laughs. My team couldn't resist getting in on the action, whipping up sketches showing the jury sporting gas masks and drawing stink lines wafting behind Trump's rear end. Pure comedy gold. I tell you now, I know what you're thinking, Jimmy. Please don't take this fart fiasco out of context and spread it virally. Well, don't worry, folks, I would never dream of doing such a thing. I'm sure the thin-skinned Trump would just love that. Instead, I'll stick to the highbrow humor, like dubbing him Julius Squeezer and the shard of the deal. But seriously, can you imagine the rage levels Trump must have been reaching according to Rolling Stone? Fury was hitting new highs. Even for his standards, the man was practically a human whoopee cushion, and I was more than happy to keep squeezing. In retaliation, the former president blasted Kimmel X, labeling him a last-place host. Wanda is one of the comics who feels negatively about Trump, in addition to Jimmy in relation to Trump's targeted trolls bet. Midler joked about one of his recent gaps in speech and hinted to allegations that the president had legally obtained gas during a rally in Wildwood, New Jersey. The former president made a series of strange comments and mistakes, including embracing the fictional character. Hannibal Lecter's bet Midler, Trump's frequent rival, seized the opportunity to ridicule him, she wrote on X, referencing both his speech at the rally and a separate allegation that had been circulating for a few weeks. Trump honored the late great Hannibal Lecter at his rally in New Jersey this past weekend. This is the first case of methane poisoning caused by someone being around his own farts. Jimmy Kimmel is roasting the hell out of our favorite orange. Menaced Donald J. Trump. Kimmel has the inside scoop on all of Trump's most recent insane antics, and believe me when I say that you're going to want to hear this. Trump has been acting like a Jesus figure lately, but let's face it, the only thing he worships is his own mirror. But the messianic delusions don't stop there, folks. Trump's been running around socially, acting like he's the second coming, comparing himself to Jesus, talking about an unholy claim. I mean, who does this guy think he is, the crucifixion of Donald Trump? Really, Kimmel hit the nail on the head when he said, that's right, you know, Jesus was treated unfairly too. Some say the second most unfairly in history. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure Jesus never had to worry about hush money payments or inciting a mob to storm the Capitol. And let's not forget the infamous Bible photo OP. Trump holding the Bible upside down, looking about as comfortable as a vegan at a steakhouse. Kimmel couldn't resist saying only Donald Trump would repost a photo of himself holding a Bible upside down. I mean, come on, Donnie, if you're going to play the holy man, at least hold the book right side up. It's like watching a toddler try to read a medical textbook. Kimmel dubbed Trump America's #1 Bible salesman, and boy is he selling something, but it sure ain't the word of God. It's more like a twisted version of the prosperity gospel where the only one prospering is Trump himself. He's got his followers believing he's some kind of divine figure persecuted by the evil forces of the deep state. It would be hilarious if it wasn't so darn scary, but wait, there's more. Apparently even Trump's own family isn't safe from his unhinged antics. Kimmel couldn't resist poking fun at the bizarre claim that Trump's daughter-in-law wanted to marry him as an April Fool's joke. I mean, who even jokes about that? But hey, it gets even weirder. Kimmel took aim at the tangle web of the Trump family tree, dropping a bombshell about Lara Trump's supposed April Fool's prank. According to Kimmel, Lara threatened to release a new song every week until she achieved her ultimate goal of tying the knot with her dear old father-in-law. Yes, you heard that right. The absurdity meter just broke the scale. Now let's be clear, this wasn't some half-baked April Fool's joke cooked up by Kimmel's writers. No, in Kimmel's own words, that was not an April Fool's joke, by the way, that was a real thing. The line between reality and satire has officially been erased, folks. In the topsy-turvy world of the Trumps, the outrageous becomes the norm, and the norm becomes a distant memory. But here's the thing about Kimmel's brand of humor. It's not just about the punchlines, there's always a deeper layer, a satirical undertone that cuts through the laughter by blending the absurd with the all-too-real. Kimmel shines a spotlight on the bizarre dynamics that seem to define the Trump clan. It's a family where the lines between genuine actions and outrageous claims are blurred beyond recognition, and let's face it, this isn't exactly out of character for the Trump brand. Donald has built his entire persona around being the ringmaster of a circus where the unexpected is the main attraction. Kimmel's jokes about Lara's supposed marriage plans fit right into the larger narrative of a family that thrives on controversy and jaw-dropping moments. In a way, Kimmel's commentary serves as a satirical mirror reflecting back the absurdity that often surrounds Trump in his inner circle. It's a world where the outlandish is just another day at the office and where the lines between reality and fiction are constantly being. But wait, there's more. Trump's truthful post was a goldmine of absurdity, and Kimmel wasn't about to let it slide in a bizarre reference to Rikers Island. Trump described his potential prison cell as a standard 9x13 cell 117 SQFT, but then exaggerated it to 5,000 FT with a balcony. I mean, come on, Donald, who are you trying to fool here? Even New York Mayor Eric Adams chimed in, saying Rikers Island is ready for Trump if he's thrown in the slammer for contempt. Kimmel, ever the comedic genius, couldn't resist taking a jab at this. He jokingly asked, what does that mean the ketchup are bolted to the tables? Oh snap, it looks like Kimmel knows about Trump's notorious love for the red condiment. But he didn't stop there. Kimmel went on to compare prepping Rikers for Trump to getting ready to imprison King Kong. He quipped that Trump might feel right at home, because their prison jumpsuits are white with reddish-orange stripes, not unlike his favorite restaurant, Burn. But the real kicker came when Kimmel took aim at Trump's foaming mouth incident during a speech. As for Old Yeller himself, he's so fired up, he's foaming at the mouth. Kimmel cracked up and talked about a visual Kimmel used this moment to highlight the sheer incompetence of Trump's staff, saying these people who work for Trump are so incompetent they don't even think to not post a video where he's literally foaming at the mouth. Seriously, how do you miss that in the editing room? I have been observing Trump and MTG's never-ending farce, and Jimmy Kimmel's most recent roast left me in stitches. Someone ought to put those two in their place with a well-timed comment. Last night, everyone was watching the political drama in New Hampshire. Trump, who is no stranger to controversy, was in the spotlight once more, and who better to provide some lighthearted relief than Jimmy Kimmel, the host of a late-night talk show. Kimmel, who is well known for his cynicism jokes. Kimmel continued his remarks. He targeted poor Nikki Haley, who can't seem to win. Nikki Haley will never stop. She won't quit the night before she told her fans the race is still going on. Kimmel jokes that she still has several states to lose before giving up. When it comes to craving punishment, let's not forget those awful competency exams. Kimmel has called for mental fitness tests for 75-year-old politicians, and Trump appears to think he would pass. He said he would outperform Haley. Kimmel also offered some opinions if Trump believes that he should be able to challenge me. Kimmel said we want to watch Donald Trump sitting with paper and a pencil, a number 2 pencil, trying to figure out which one is a rectangle and which one is a square. What we want to see is Trump trying to distinguish a triangle from a trapezoid. We have prime-time TV, and every moment captivated the audience. They eagerly awaited Kimmel's wit and biting critique, especially of the witty and entertaining Donald Trump. It's like seeing a slow-motion train wreck, you can't look away. Jimmy Kimmel, the late-night comedy king, mocked Donald Trump and his political allies. He was sarcastic when riffing on the past president. Kimmel loved Trump's immature name, calling like labeling Nikki Haley a bird brain after she lost the New Hampshire primary. That's one way to win big. Trump targeted Haley and others. Trump has been incredibly gracious to Ron DeSantis. Kimmel said Ron DeSantis should now beware of being kind. He teases and degrades him at every opportunity. Watching this is like watching a schoolyard bully on steroids. Kimmel continued his jokes. He suggested Haley challenge Trump to a mental competency test instead of a debate. Can you imagine Donald trying to distinguish colors and shapes? Witnessing. Sats would be like seeing a kid indeed. Trump's ego is so sensitive that he cannot accept others taking the spotlight. Trump threw a fury following Haley's remarks after her New Hampshire loss. This was because pretending you won when you actually lost is his thing. Laughter filled the house as Kimmel accurately portrayed the man-baby, and Chief Kimmel also criticizes Trump's hypocrisy. It appears that the person who brags about his achievements cannot accept defeat. He acts like a spoiled rich kid, throwing a tantrum when he doesn't get what he wants. Kimmel uses his razor-sharp wit and cutting comedy to expose Trump's insanity and his sick offense for a nice laugh and honest political criticism. Check out his unique style, an absolute must. Kimmel slammed the representative. Marjorie Taylor Greene is known for her conspiracy theories and controversial beliefs. She's got more loose bolts than a Boeing 737. He joked, keeping the audience laughing throughout the performance. Wait, there's more. Kimmel said that Greene either is or was dating that reporter she was talking to. Who could blame him? She reminds me of QAnon and Jewish space lasers. A great find she is. Kimmel wasn't just watching Greene, he also blasted George Santos, the freshman lawmaker who has lied more than a husband who has been unfaithful to Maury after seeing Santos at a Trump event. Kimmel made fun of him. Looks like somebody's gunning for a pardon, huh? He laughed. Trump must hate him so much. Kimmel searched the internet for a photo of them together but found nothing there. He replied, no one knows how many photos Trump has with Jeffrey Epstein. George Santos responds, you remain over there. I heard how strange it is to be rejected by MAGA supporters, not content. Kimmel kept joking. He criticized the January 6th Capitol stormers, including Greene and Santos. I tend to think that if you overthrow the government, having to take the bus for the rest of your life is a pretty fair punishment, he mused. This is a clever way to highlight their absurdity and seeming need for mercy. Kimmel's wit and sarcasm showed Greene and Santos is crazy. He used comedy to cut through the clamor and nonsense to tell them the truth about their actions. It showcases his comic and pundit skills and reminds us that satire holds public authorities accountable. Laughter and applause flooded the studio like helium in a blimp. Jimmy's onliners hit harder than a Trump golf shot in a sand trap. The crowd loved every joke from Marjorie Taylor Greene's IQ to George Santos's lies. Jimmy's joke on Trump with Nikki Haley 91 to 0 felonies had the audience rolling the Bleach Blaney devil line. The audience howled like hyenas at feeding time, nearly losing it. Kimmel's Patriot Air bit had them in stitches, illustrating that MAGA politics outlandish jokes create themselves. Rectangle and which is a square. It's a joke, but it reflects many Americans' serious fears about Trump's suitability for office. Remember how Kimmel utilizes humor to approach even the toughest political times. After the Capitol insurrection, he joked about protesters' travel problems. Insurrectionists took longer to get through the TSA. I think taking the bus for life is a reasonable punishment for overthrowing the government. It cleverly emphasizes the ridiculousness of the situation and accountability. Kimmel's humor goes beyond domestic politics. In response to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's fears about Trump, he remarked it must be like living in an apartment over a crack house. Imagine being neighbors with that chaos. Let's revisit Jimmy Kimmel's one-word bombshell that shook politics. As we conclude this episode, political criticism may be powerfully humorous and satirical. Kimmel's ability to simplify complex subjects into one stinging word is remarkable. As they say, cheaters never thrive unless you're Donald Trump. Harris refuses. She told Kimmel cheaters don't like getting caught and being held accountable after being convicted of 34 felonies. Trump may finally pay 6-week deliberation unanimous decision that jury was serious. Jimmy Kimmel's interview with Kamala Harris sparked zingers faster than Trump's tweets. Harris lashed out with onliners that had Kimmel in the audience laughing, one of her best shots, highlighting the irony of never meeting Trump despite their political prominence. Kimmel couldn't resist pointing out the absurdity. Harris began warming up. She said cheaters don't like getting caught and being held accountable in reference to Trump's guilty verdict. I heard Trump may need aloe vera for that burn. The vice president also noted that President Trump likes tyrants and plans to utilize the Department of Justice against his enemies. Harris and Kimmel had a field day with Trump's habit to blame others for the same things he does and his hypocrisy. It was like a politics-infused roast. Kimmel was the perfect partner for Harris's wit, offering punchlines and injecting his own humor. Harris and Kimmel were at their best. As the show ended, they produced Trump-purchased gags like a well-oiled machine. This proves that a few well-timed zingers can defeat a bully. The vice president bluntly blasted President Trump for persuading the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. Her criticism was of the former president for hand-picking justices to remove reproductive rights protections. They executed Trump's twisted vision well. Harris also considered the real-world effects of the court verdict. She painted a bleak image of doctors and nurses facing criminal prosecution and the lack of rape and incest exclusions in some jurisdictions. "People, you're in a moral and ethical minefield," but roasting continued. Harris slammed Trump for his long list of 34 felony charges. Kimmel also joked on Trump's re-election consequences. He joked about the repercussions an angry Trump may have on a talk show presenter who had insulted him. Harris acknowledged Trump's enthusiasm for tyrants and his vows to weaponize the judicial system against his opponents, but she played along. The two also discussed Trump's hypocrisy. Harris noted that he often takes responsibility for his own mistakes. Trump is known for evading, denying, and blaming others. Harris and Kimmel provided a two-punch of humor and real-life realities throughout the episode. Even though they discussed critical issues, the chat was entertaining. Political satire was a class. Jimmy Kimmel, noted for his comic timing, didn't let Harris have all the fun criticizing Trump. He brought his A-game to the interview, throwing in zingers throughout in his introduction. It was the perfect mix of Kimmel's comedy and the gravity of the matter. The tipping moment came when Kimmel speculated that Republicans may regret their healthcare stance. Kimmel kept the audience laughing throughout the interview. He asked Harris a random question to take a break. Jokes and jabs weren't always used. Kimmel and Harris addressed serious topics like Trump's legal issues and the absurdity of criminalizing marijuana use. Kimmel also mentioned Kamala. Harris's remark was priceless and brought levity and comedy to a serious subject. "Are you aware that there is a strain of cannabis named after you?" Kamala, did you know that? Really? Yeah, seriously. Kimmel managed to squeeze in one more joke about Trump's impact on Republicans as the interview ended. Rather than solving a problem, he would rather run on it. Kimmel said with a knowing grin after a hilarious witty in the cutting segment that this was the perfect way to end the show. Kamala Harris was a master of creative balance, combining serious political comments with satirical spice to fascinate the audience. However, she faced the severe issues and the Supreme Court's Roe Wade ruling. She said Trump handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe Wade. She said this with wit and gravity. Harris went beyond facts to inject sarcasm. She joked that states threatened prison for life for a doctor administering care when discussing tough Roe v. Wade guidelines. It was a serious statement wrapped in a joke to emphasize how absurd the issue is. The personal touch she brought is also noteworthy. Harris's criticism was realistic because she utilized her experience as a prosecutor to point out that rape and incest survivors are not exempt from the law. Her stepfather and best friend sexually assaulted her. I like that this highlighted that rejecting exceptions is immoral. Wait, there's more. Harris's issue went beyond abortion legalization. She highlighted Trump's 60th attempts to undo the Affordable Care Act. It was a great segue that linked seemingly unrelated themes using Trump's misbehavior. Harris couldn't resist a satire, even when asked if she had met Trump. How did she react? "No, you've not. That's something else." It started as a joke but became a serious statement about Trump's actions and their consequences. The Trump legal zinger must not be overlooked. Harris's remark that cheaters don't like getting caught and being held accountable referenced his 34 felony convictions while retaining a friendly tone. Despite everything, Harris never lost sight of the greater picture. She stressed democracy and voting, saying we still have an intact democracy with 3 co-equal branches of government. The funny bundle was also a call to action. Harris didn't flinch when discussing Trump's possible return. She noted his authoritarianism. He admires dictators, and he says he'll be a dictator on day one. Her administration's efforts to uphold democratic standards countered the uncomfortable thought. Jimmy Kimmel and Kamala Harris struck a perfect balance between fun and political criticism. The talk's tone was tailored at politically active liberals. The show had the proper mix of snark, wit, and depth to keep people hooked, like watching a delicious political cocktail being made. Kimmel's quips were the perfect addition to the serious topics. Let's face it, this wasn't just a funny show. The senator was blunt about Trump's wrongdoings and their real-world consequences. She strongly criticized Trump's admiration for dictators and his plan to weaponize the Department of Justice. Sati's power and political discourse were shown by her strong criticism of the previous president's legal issues and divisive tactics. Paris used comedy to convey important ideas about healthcare, women's rights, and the rule of law to the audience. Kimmel's jokes added lightness to the discussion, keeping viewers engaged while providing crucial information. Kimmel conceived the talk, And as the episode ended, it became clear that comedy can disarm opponents and expose their absurdity in politics. Harris and Kimmel's exchange showed that sometimes the best way to communicate a serious message is to laugh,